to the show. We're going to start with the lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. So we have quite a bit of Apple news this week, starting off with some updates. So on Monday, the 10th, Apple released updates for both iOS and for watchOS. So we're going to start with watchOS 9. This fix includes fixes for a microphone bug, Spotify interruptions, snooze alarm notifications after the alarm clock is detected for assistive touch users. That's a mouthful. Incomplete syncing of wallet and fitness data for newly paired Apple Watches, and audio from microphone interrupted from some Apple Watch Series 8 and Ultra users. Were you experiencing any of these things on your version?
Not any of these, but if you remember last week, we also talked about issues where if your AirPods, the Generation 2 versions, die or get low on power
Mm-hmm.
and you're opening up Find My or something, you'll get that message that battery needs to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
I got that. I started getting that message.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I started experiencing that, and it didn't have anything. I wasn't even in like the Find My app. It's just when the AirPods got low on power, I got a notification on my phone that said batteries need to be replaced. Of course, like I said, since we already talked about it, I kind of knew it was like a bug or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
once I put them in the
Charging case?
the charging case and charged them up, I didn't have any issues. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that I was experiencing some of those issues from last week. This week, I didn't have any of these. Let's see. Nope, I didn't have any of these issues. So yeah.
Yeah. And if you are having some of these issues, definitely want to upgrade to watchOS 9.0.2. Even if you're not, go ahead and get the update, because these are just the things that the release notes mentioned. So I don't know if there was anything else that could have been included that were not highlighted. Moving on to iOS 16.0.3, there were some fixes in the notification space with the camera speed on the iPhone Pro and a couple of things as well. Again, this was released at the same time as the watchOS update. And the fixes in this release include incoming call and app notifications may be delayed or not delivered on iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. Low microphone volume can occur during CarPlay phone calls on all iPhone 14 models. Also, camera may be slow to launch or switch between modes on iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, and mail crashes on launch after receiving a malformed email. Now, I don't think I experienced any of these. I think my camera was, when I was trying to flip to it a couple times, it was, a little weird going into camera mode, but not switching between any of the modes that are on there. So I don't know. That may be the only one that's kind of similar, but these other ones I did not experience.
All right. Yeah. So I didn't experience any of these at all. So I'm like I said, knock on wood, but I've been pretty lucky as to not experience any of the iPhone 14 Pro or Pro Max issues that we talked about 2 weeks ago. Any of
Mhm.
the AirPod issues that we talked about last week, with the exception of that bug thing that we kind of already knew wasn't really a error. It's just like a mislabeled thing. And then none of these I didn't experience any of these as well. So I've been pretty lucky. So I'm going to knock on wood and keep it rolling.
Yeah, since my initial issues, I haven't had any, but my initial ones, they had me seriously thinking of trading this sucker in, because I was like, this is not it. This is not what I signed up for. Next up, I think we talked about this a little bit last week about a possible October event. Well, it's been long rumored that there was not going to be an actual in person or production event, but rather a series of press releases of, of new releases. Now, they're saying, I think this is from Mac Rumors, or is this from 9 to 5 Mac? I want to make
Nine
sure
to
I'm correct.
five.
9 to 5 Mac. According to 9 to 5 Mac, this is actually on multiple sites, but this is just where I pulled it from. They're thinking that we may get a string of press releases just as we're going into the holiday season. Prime just had like their another Prime event. I think it was Tuesday and Wednesday. So people are
Mm-hmm.
kind of gearing up for holiday shopping time. So they many people are suspecting that there is going to be a product release this month without all the fanfare. You might see, we don't know, all this is rumors and guesses. MacBook Pro that has that M2 Pro and M2 Max chip, possible M2 Mac Mini, possible iPad Pro, possible iPad 10, and possible Apple TV. Do you think we will see any of these in October?
No. I could be totally wrong. So this, I guess, is going to be more of a hot take than some, hypothesis or any sort of research guess. No, because all of the things that 9 to 5 Mac mentioned, M2 MacBook Pro, they mentioned M2 Mac Mini, they mentioned an iPad Pro, they mentioned the newest generation iPad, which would be the Generation 10 iPad. They even new Apple TV. Then they even put a question mark behind a Mac Pro, the cheese grater Mac Pro, right? So
That's why
all
I didn't
those
even include that. I'm
things.
like, that's stupid. No.
The point I'm trying to make is that's one, two, three, four, five, six things. That's enough for an event. And the
And a
fact
big
that
event because this is some pretty impressive, like main product line stuff.
even though we've seen the M2 already, they announced it in the 13-inch MacBook Pros earlier this year. That's enough stuff that 9 to 5 Mac mentioned, enough to make an event. Now the problem is 9 to 5 Mac mentioned it. There's no. It's just a
It's a
which goes
rumor.
back to my original gripe is all these products are just rumors. But I mean, they're rumors based on history, right?
Mm.
Apple for the past 5 years has
Have
done an
done an
October event.
October event. Yeah.
And in those October events, they've announced computers, right?
Hmm.
We are in the area to where we need a new iPad. The last iPad was last year sometime. So it makes sense, but
I'm hoping for a new iPad Pro because I want one. Been wanting one.
right, right. It makes sense, but it also makes sense for them to have an event. And if they're not having an event, then it's also a smart guess to say they may not have these all of these products. They may just have one or two. If they
Yeah.
have one or two, that's a press release.
Yeah.
If there's four or more of these things, they can put that into a tight hour
Yeah.
and announce MacBooks, Mac Minis, and iPads. That's enough for an event in and of itself.
Yeah, the Pro, the big MacBook, the big Mac Pro, I was like, no, I don't think that's coming. The Apple
Mm-hmm.
TV, not no, I don't think that's coming. Maybe an iPad suite of press releases, maybe. I just for the MacBook Pros, they like to do big flashy things for MacBook Pros. They just announced the M2s, earlier. Um, I can't foresee them. Well, I guess I can. It would make more sense for them to do a press release for the larger screen MacBook Pros M2s because I mean April is right around the corner. The spring event is right around the corner, and I don't know. I don't think it's not going to be this many products that come out.
Or
And
we
just
could be
thinking of the
all
typical,
I'll say, and we could be all wrong. And these websites again they got us hooked.
yeah,
Since it is the middle of October, they need stories to write. What's a good story? Oh, Apple hasn't come up with an Apple event. Boom, we'll run that. And then the other story and other sites pick up and another site pick up.
Yeah.
When it could just be Apple is going to announce an October event next week. And then the week
Yeah.
after that will be when they do the event and we're just jumping the gun.
Yeah. And honestly, it's related to one of the other stories we'll get to, and I'll talk about it. But it would be quite shady of them to have an event on October 25th. And as we get down a little bit further in the show, you'll see why that could be a little bit fun and a little bit shady. Next up, Apple Card users, with which Terrence and I both are. They just announced today, Thursday, that through Goldman Sachs, they are going to offer Apple Card users high yield saving accounts. And of course, that this new high yield savings account will be managed through the Apple Wallet. You can set it up to automatically deposit your daily cash, meaning whenever you buy something from Apple, you get the 3%, or from the specific partners, you get 2%, or just your regular 1% on regular purchases. You can have that cash directly ported over to your new high yield Goldman Sachs savings account. Again, with this, there are no fees, no minimum deposits, and no minimum balance requirements. And that for me is enough to say, wow, because high yield accounts usually have fees, minimum deposits, and minimum balance requirements. Because if they're giving you that high percentage of APR, then yeah, you gotta have some base. We gotta have some skin in the game. You gotta be making us money as much as you're making money. There was no specific release date for when this was going to be open. I think it. They said in the coming months, so likely by the end of the year, and that would really make the most sense because people are going to be doing Christmas spending, and they will likely be using their Apple cards, particularly if they're buying something from Apple. They can build up that little fund and kind of put it on over easily to their new high yield savings account. Currently, for Goldman Sachs, their high yield accounts, savings accounts, are at about 2.15%. So that's what they're trending at now. Who knows what it'll be when this launches at the end of the year, but that just kind of gives you a baseline of what the high yield percentage is.
So this is, I'm curious as to what was the age range to open up this high yield savings account? I'm assuming maybe 13, 14. Reason why I say that is
Maybe.
because earlier this year, I recently graduated my oldest daughter up to a traditional checking and savings account. If I would have known this was coming,
But waited.
I may have held off and created this savings account and then added her as an authorized user
Authorized user.
under my Apple credit card account. So that would
Mm-hmm.
give her the ability to spend money and then just deposit and withdraw from the savings account, which should be
Mm-hmm.
easier because it's all on the phone, it's all in the app or whatever case may
Right.
be, which is right now, if I want to send her some money, I got to work some magic. I got to make 2 or 3 steps versus this way. If she needs money, I can just give her Apple Cash and then boom, she'll immediately have that. Or based on her being an authorized user under my Apple card, I can set limits and yada, 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 and all those
Mm-hmm.
things to where she's not just running it up because it's a credit
Right.
card, right? It's the same thing we did with her previous bank account. It was one of
Mm-hmm.
those, it's Greenlight. Greenlight
Mm-hmm.
has it to where you put money in, you set limits, you tell them where they can and can't spend money, and then it was a debit card. But this way, if she's an authorized user, it's now a credit card. So now she's building up credit versus using a
Mm-hmm.
debit card, and it's easier to move the money between the savings and the credit card when she needs to
Right.
make payments and things like that.
Yep.
So
Yeah. This is
shoot,
actually,
go
I
ahead.
was like, yeah, this is actually pretty dope. When I saw no fees, no minimum deposits, and minimum balance requirements, I was like, that's kind of a winner.
Yep. And it's people are used to using their phones for everything, so
Right.
this is just another way to not have to go to a bank.
Yeah. Yeah. Because none of us like to go to banks. All right. The next thing is crash detection. We talked about it last week, how it helped save not save, it helped find a car of 5 people who had a crash, and it was, a total fatality, but they were able to get to them quick enough where they were able to attempt to save one of the passengers. Well, this is a different side of crash detection. Apparently, this writer, Joanna Stern of the Wall Street Journal, published this article talking about how roller coasters are triggering the crash detection on iPhone 14, and how it's sending out these uh, emergency responders, thinking that they are going to a crash where someone is harmed, but they're just going to a theme park. So this is particularly around Kings Island theme
Mm-hmm.
park. I think there was one instance of Dollywood, but approximately 6 different reports have been falsely triggered from people riding on roller coasters with their iPhones in their pockets. So much so that Dollywood put up a
Put
sign
up a
encouraging
right.
people to leave their phones or to turn off the feature. But what I
Mm-hmm.
thought was interesting in her article, she put it a little bit further down, that this particular sign was actually put in place back in 2021 for, if you hit the side button and the other button on the other side, you can
Mm-hmm.
quickly enable the SOS emergency on your
Mm-hmm.
phone. When people were on rides, they were accidentally pushing the buttons for that. But now this crash detection, it is
Automatic.
simulating
Mm-hmm.
is simulating wrecks. And so in the article, it says, quote, roller coasters have the critical attributes to trick the algorithm, which takes into account g-force measurements, pressure changes, GPS speeds and changes, and loud noises. So these first responders are rushing to the site because it gives you 20 seconds to cancel it. Well, if you're on a
Mm-hmm.
roller coaster ride, you don't know that it's triggered this because your phone's in your pocket, because you don't want to lose your phone while you're topsy
Mm-hmm.
turvy and all over. And so you're not canceling the 20-second notification. So this has gotten people all up in a bunch. Who was it? I saw on 9 to 5 Google. They were talking about the Pixel, and they were kind of shady, and they were like, "Well,
Mm-hmm.
the Pixel has
Mm-hmm.
had their crash detection for 4 years. Have any of you experienced this? Please let us know." And my thought is, well, maybe yours isn't that good if you aren't if you aren't picking this up, and now the iPhone is. It's not that fact to me that it's, of course it's horrible that first responders are going out, but it says more to me about the actual roller coaster. You're telling me that being on this roller coaster simulates a car accident. Should I
Mm-hmm.
be on this roller coaster?
Right.
I
Right.
think people are, to me, it's like, it's kind of getting lost, the fact that the roller coaster is moving you around so much that this finely tuned algorithm thinks you're in a car wreck. Should you actually be on this ride?
Well, I
And
don't want to call. Oh, go ahead. I'll let
no,
you
go
finish.
ahead. That was
I'll say
it.
I don't want to call BS because while I did not have the iPhone 14 at the time, Apple did announce crash detection, fall detection, not crash detection,
Ball, yeah.
fall detection on the Apple Watch previous to that. And late this summer, me and my family went to an amusement park here in Georgia. And we went on all the different roller coasters and things of that nature. And I didn't get any of those notifications. So I'm assuming, I'm assuming crash detection is a little different. But at the same time, fall detection, if you can imagine going up to the top of a roller coaster and then that quick drop, I guess that could simulate a fall. And I didn't get any of those detections. So while I don't want to say BS, uh, people are purposely doing this and blaming it on the roller coaster just to get some attention. Again, I don't put nothing past nobody. Maybe crash detection is that good And maybe Apple, as much as we would like to think, maybe Apple didn't ride thousands of roller coasters with an Apple Watch or an
Mhm.
iPhone strapped to employees' pockets in order to, say, yeah, we need to adjust the settings so the roller coaster knows that you are on that the Apple Watch or the iPhone knows that you're on a roller coaster versus being in an actual car. We don't know what kind of test they did. Maybe they just did a little bit and then are updating the data on the fly. So we are the guinea pigs. So all of these things are happening, and Apple's like, good, good, good. Give us that data. So when these next updates roll out, we'll have enough data to actually make some actual changes that won't mess with the integrity of the initial purpose was actual crash detection.
Right. And my thing is, in this article, I'm looking at the Wall Street Journal article as well. They're making it seem as if it's widespread, but it hasn't happened consistently except for at this one theme park. To me, if this was, I guess, a broader issue, wouldn't it be happening at most of the theme parks? Or is it just the particular rides at this particular theme park in
Kings
Cincinnati, Ohio?
Kings Island. I'm born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, and every summer, me and my family would drive the 2 or so hours to go to Kings Island. Kings Island is a old amusement park. They have
Mm.
some of those rickety wooden roller coasters. Again, I haven't been there in years. I'm pretty sure they've added some new age, modern, smooth roller coasters, but they've got some old rickety wooden joints that jolt you around the ride as it goes around. Same thing with Dollywood. Dollywood is an old amusement park, and they probably got some of those wooden roller coasters that'll jerk you around to where they're going so fast and it's so abrupt that it could trigger it,
Yeah, and
again. And I don't think Apple said, yes, let's send Apple employees to Kings Island and Dollywood, and we're going to ride these roller coasters 10,000 times in order to get the data we need to make sure this doesn't happen. I'm pretty sure Apple was like, thanks for that data, now we're going to
we'll
change
take
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm looking at the article. They did mention a Joker roller coaster in Six Flags in near Chicago. Uh, but I don't see like a consistent,
Right.
like a whole bunch of different theme parks having this issue. And so I say all that to say an Apple spokesperson told the writer of the article that crash detection is, quote, extremely accurate in detecting severe crashes, and that the company optimized it for getting users help while minimizing false positives. So it looks like they did do some testing to
Mm-hmm.
mitigate false positives, but I think based on the information that she got, and maybe more people will come out and say it, but it just seems to me that it's out of the millions and millions of iPhones that were sold across the world, we have an instance of 6 times at this one theme
That's
park,
pretty. That's pretty
the
low.
one at Dollywood, and maybe a couple at a Six Flags park. In the threshold of, false positives, that's still pretty low. But again,
Mm-hmm.
it's Apple. So it's one of those things where it gets amplified. Now it's in the Wall Street Journal. Now everybody's talking about it. And the
Mm-hmm.
article even indicated that people have been trying, you talked about it last week, people have been trying to force the crash detection to work, and they haven't been able to recreate it. So that goes to show even further that these rides must be, they probably should look into these rides and decommissioning them
Well, that takes the fun
because
out of it. That takes the fun out of going to a roller coaster because there's that hint of danger. People are man.
do
That
you
hint of
want
danger.
whiplash? Do you
People,
want your back
people,
thrown out?
people. I'm not a roller coaster fan, but I will get on not the slingshot things. But if it's not one of those slingshots and it's not the one that just takes you up and just drops you straight down, I'll get on a roller coaster a couple times. So not because I'm a what do you call those
Thrill seeker.
people? A thrill seeker.
I'm a
I'm
bit of a
not a
thrill
thrill.
seeker, so I get it.
I'm not a thrill seeker, but if I paid all that money and I and I'm doing all this walking and I'm standing in all these lines, I'm going to
I'm gonna
ride the
ride
roller
something.
coaster.
Right.
Right, right, right. Now, again, you make a good point. People have been trying to simulate this crash detection by actually getting in crashes. Well, not getting in crashes, driving in cars and trying to,
Swerve,
simulate a
slam on
crash,
brakes. Yeah, yeah. Without
a
actually being
se-
in a crash. Yeah.
just to get the views, just to get it on YouTube, just to get in the Wall Street Journal. Well, if you can't do that, then next best thing is let's get on this roller coaster so we can get on the news and get in the Wall Street Journal and say, hey, I was able to get the paramedics to come to the amusement park because my iPhone triggered the crash detection. That's a nice little 2 seconds. I ain't gonna say 15 minutes of fame. Call it 2 seconds of fame, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a temporary fix. You can turn your phone in airplane mode, and that's the best way to prevent this false positive crash detection.
Okay. All right. All right.
So put it in airplane mode, but be sure to turn airplane mode off when you leave the park, because the whole point is to make sure that when you're driving in a vehicle, you can have the crash detection on. But, it's just one of those things that I think everybody was talking about it on the internet, and it was getting lots of views because, of course, it's Apple. Then, of course, competitors had to like throw their little salt in the game. Well, we've had it for 4 years, and have you guys experienced this? Probably because yours isn't that good. But I
Them be
digress.
haters.